which exists everywhere in this world, and they will make us understand that our home is our ashram, and our people, husband, wife, brother, sister, and mother, father, they are the forms of God with whom we are expected to conduct our experiments, to undergo the training of discipleship, and they will guide us at every step. When the time comes, they will come to us and appear before us. Even before that also, they will be guiding us through many births and rebirths. Though we do not know that they are our masters, because it is not important that we should know them, because they don't want any venerations or offerings from us. It is important that they should know us, and they always know us. They do not want any recognition or certificate from us. Therefore, they do not appear before us unless it is time. But at the same time, they will be guiding us from behind, trying to decide the quality of our actions and thought and words, and at every step assessing the values of our evolution, and gradually replacing our nature with a higher nature until the nature of this earth globe begins to work through us. Then we will be already workers in the planetary kingdom of this earth. This is how the masters work through us, and our life itself becomes discipleship when the motives in us will be purified, and when we understand that we don't want anything for ourselves. This is true discipleship in its real sense. This is what the masters call discipleship, and we need not feel that it is not possible in the modern times. The term modern and ancient does not much mean any difference, because it is only the external things that are changed. We may be having buildings in a different form, we may be having new and beautiful roads and highways, better types of motor cars and better types of trams and railways, and supersonic jets and interplanetary bodies. But these changes do not mean anything to us. They are called only civilization, which means some convenience, better convenience, and nothing else at all. And human nature remains the same whether it was ancient or today or tomorrow. We are the same human beings with the same weaknesses and same virtues and same dirty behavior. We are having some human qualities, we are having some beastly qualities. Whenever our human qualities are working, we are able to do something useful to others. Whenever our beastly habits are working, we are able to cause some wars on the globe. The occurrence of wars in the modern age and 20th century also is enough proof that we are as much beasts as we were in the ancient days. So it is for us to understand Patanjali. It is the only process which makes us understand the path, and it leads us to God consciousness and the fourth way of perfection, and it makes us undergo the real discipleship under the real masters. And we have to honor and venerate all the other masters and the teachers and the professors also, because it is only through seeing God in all people we will go into discipleship, and not by finding differences of greatness and otherwise. If we begin to compare between two masters, or between your yoga teacher and my yoga teacher, whose yoga teacher is great, we can make Sirshasana for half an hour continuously, but we will go into the hell of ignorance with the same Sirshasana, so that we may not escape. So let us understand and venerate everyone as the form of God. Sometimes we may think that we are masters, and if we find others following other teachers, we may feel jealous also, and let us try to see God in the disciples of other masters and other teachers, because by seeing God in others we go into discipleship and not comparing difference and differentiating between people and groups. This is the attitude of true discipleship, and let us try to wait for the day when we will be recruited into the discipleship of this earth planet under the guidance of one of the masters. Let it be Master Moria or Kutumi or Master Jwalkol or Vedavyasa, Parashara, Shukayogi. Like this there are thousands of masters, and we have each master guiding an aspect of the perfection of the evolution, and we will let us try to prove our fitness to the masters, not by thinking about the masters, but by our attitude towards our fellow beings on this earth. As long as we are thinking about the masters, they do not feel like looking at us, because what they want is not the foolish veneration of the foolish disciples, because if we venerate them, they do not get anything. They begin to care for us only if we begin to care for people who are weaker than ourselves. We have to meditate upon the suffering mankind who are less intelligent than ourselves, who are having less health than ourselves, who are having less money and less opportunities than ourselves. So the masters are not glamored of our veneration and our devotion towards themselves. And if we make a closed circle of our meditation room, close the doors inside and place there the pictures of the masters and light candles around them and make silent and secret meditations about the masters, or our rituals in the secret halls without allowing other people to come into, and thus feeling pious pride and pious aristocracy. If we meditate like that, the photos of the masters, they will laugh at us and they ask us to wait. But the moment we turn our face towards the suffering humanity, immediately they begin to look at us, and within a short time we will be recruited into the discipleship. When once we are recruited, we are one with all the disciples working on this earth globe. And externally they may be the disciples of any separate guru, but internally we all belong to the same master who is guiding us. This is the ultimate truth of discipleship, and let us try to behave and prove our fitness to the masters. Thank you all for the patient hearing, and if there are any relevant questions, try to answer and explain. The cause of our breath is pulsation. Pulsation belongs to the supra-physical levels, and our lungs belong to the physical plane. Unless the lungs are made to pulsate, we cannot make our respiration. That's why when the pulsation stops, the lungs stop breathing, the respiration stops, and then we call it a corpse. That's the reason why the doctor cannot make the lungs work once again, because it is not the lungs that are responsible for our respiration, but the pulsation which is making the lungs move. The same pulsation is making the heart circulate the blood. The same pulsation is making the stomach digest the food. It is a double pulsation which is called peristalsis. It makes the muscles and nerves contract and expand. Neither the muscles nor nerves are responsible, but the pulsation is responsible. It is a force and a consciousness put together, and that is called prana in Sanskrit. When we begin to make an acquaintance of our prana by trying to observe the respiration in our mind every day for some time, and gradually bring our mind to the respiration by closing our eyes and observing the movements of our lungs, and be aware of how the lungs are respiring and who is breathing in our lungs. By making this question every day, trying to understand who is breathing in us, and understanding that we are not breathing for ourselves, because we do not remember our breath at all. We are busy with many other things which we think we are important, and we do not remember about our respiration even once in 10 days, unless there is some quick breathing and dyspnea, or unless there is some asthma or suffocation or any pain in the respiratory organs. We do not remember our respiration. When there is some trouble with the respiration, then we begin to remember about it. So it is quite evident that we are not breathing for ourselves, but someone in us is breathing. You can call him higher ourself, and he is breathing in us for us, and try to understand him and try to observe him in your respiration. Then your awareness approaches your respiration gradually, and the mind begins to descend from your brain cells and gradually approach your lungs and heart. Gradually the mind comes to the prana or the pulsation of the respiration, and finally it merges into the prana or the pulsation. Then the mind and prana become one unit, and that is what is called pranayama. So pulsation is prana, and the merging of mind and prana is pranayama. Yes, breath automatically, the pulsation is there, because the intelligence called pulsation exists everywhere in space and begins to work wherever there is a birth. Yeah. First he has to breathe in because he should have some air, he should take some air to invest into his cry. He should cry out. To cry out, there should be some air inside. Therefore, he begins his life with taking in breath. No, he is made to take it. He is helpless. Therefore, he takes it. Because it is not his will or desire, or it is not his choice. Yes. The law begins to work in him because we are not born on this earth because we wanted. Only after some years we know that we are born on this earth. That's why the law for pulsation makes the boy begin to take respiration. It begins with taking in breath and ends with giving out breath. The first we call birth and the second we call death. Why the question of making somebody suffer comes when we are in the practice of when we are really in the practice of discipleship, when we are under the guidance of a master, no situation occurs when we make anyone suffer. If you can give one example, then there will be no attitude at all except the attitude of God in a disciple. So how can anyone say that he is suffering? Because a real disciple has only one attitude, that is to feel the presence of God in everyone. How can his attitude make anyone suffer? All this activity, all this realization belongs to a person who wants to be a disciple. Yes, one who wants to be a disciple should start the process of the 3 mantras given in the story. Then there is no question of troubling anyone or our attitude inconveniencing anyone, because we believe in the full independence of everyone. When we begin to practice God presence in others, we don't believe in the principle of influencing anyone with our thoughts or ideas. We can do something by way of service only when it is agreeable to him. Unless God permits to do service, we cannot do the service also. And the other man should accept to receive our service, and God in the form of the other man should permit us to do service to him. Then only we can try to do something to him, and we do not prefer to enforce it upon him when it is not agreeable to him. Then there is no question of inconveniencing anyone. The disciple will be completely aware of this part, the other 90%, 95% also. And the fourth state which I described is nothing but an example of the 100% awareness into all the consciousness. That is what is called the descent of God in us.